Whatever. Oh, he's muted himself. He's deafened himself. Are you there, Tony?
I've left the I've streamed the Ballbusters. Fucking hell, Master V chat.
Who has?
Emma.
Emma's left Master B.
Yeah.
Oh dear, you're breaking up a bit
like,
as well.
It comes across as being
It's confrontational, right? They're leaving without actually saying anything.
Well, she did say something, but it doesn't bode well if she can't learn to disagree with others properly. No one agrees with everything that everybody says in this topic, including Emma, including me, including you. We don't all agree on stuff. But if she comes across as bigoted, she's not gonna win people over.
Yeah.
I don't agree with John on light. I don't know what light is, and I don't believe John knows what light is, but he's adamant it's a particle.
Yeah.
Well, he can't prove it.
All right, whatever.
And I know that that's a head-to-head. That's a head-to-head car crash.
Yeah.
So
right. Whatever's undeafened himself now.
Well,
unmuted as well.
Is he?
Nice. Are you coming back for your geometry review? Have you had you've had a little look over some numbers?
An epiphany.
Yeah.
No epiphany, but I did reply to your post just a moment ago.
I saw that. Yeah. So you're saying that over half a mile there would be a 2-inch difference.
Yeah, that's what the math says. If Earth's radius is
okay. So what you're saying is you've had a look at my test, and you've noted that if it was to be scaled up to a mile over the green tube, then the centre of that green tube at half a mile distance would be 2 inches higher, according to your maths that you've done.
Right, 2 inches higher than which would be the line which goes between the two outside green tubes.
Would you call that a level line or on the outside tubes? Because I mean, if that centre one wasn't there, then that just outside one would be called level, them two ends, right?
The level would be the chord, especially if you're standing in the center.
Right. So yeah, but
now if there was no radius, there was no arc, then obviously.
Right, but
there would be no difference.
At that halfway point, though, right? Because you've put a little hump. You've called the big one a chord. Then, if we have them two smaller levels that only go that half mile, would you call the ends of them two a chord also?
They would form their own chord.
Yeah.
Those
but that would be a horizontal that's different than the other horizontal, or in the same place as the same horizontal, right?
If you're standing between the two outside the half mile tube, and the horizontal would be parallel to the chord between those two tubes.
Right, so that's what horizontal is to you, parallel to a chord on a circle.
Well, no, just in the case of, calculating the edge of it, which
no. I mean, yeah,
until the other day.
In the case of doing a water level test, a practical water level test, you are equating the horizontal to a chord on a circle, right? Can I just get you to confirm that? Mathematically, that's what you're doing anyway.
Mathematically, it predicts if there's a radius, if the Earth's radius is a certain number, then the 2 inches is what you would expect to see. If the Earth's radius is something different, and the test can measure it, down to 2 inches or whatever, then you can then you would see a different number than 2 inches.
Yeah, but
or if it was completely flat, you wouldn't see any difference at all.
Right, so you are equating though the reality of a water level test with like a mathematical calculation based around a circle, right? And you are in fact measuring the horizontal as being parallel to a chord.
Yeah, if you're in the middle, yes.
If you're in the middle, but aren't you always in? Like, I mean, if you're walking along the side of a canal, where would you class the middle of the canal as being, or is it just at your position?
You need the two reference points. Be the middle of. Again, this is thinking of it geometrically. Try to understand try to predict what would be measured. Now,
but
I'm not saying that's
level
what would
like
be measured. I don't even know if your test can even has the ability to measure that. But
well, that's what the water level is, right? Have you done? You've ever used it practically, a level? Have you ever?
Yeah, I've seen water levels like in construction sites where someone's trying to transfer hang a light a certain height, and then they want to hang the light further down a certain height, and they don't have access to like one of them fancy little mini laser things. Just getting a long tube and doing it that way, it works pretty well.
But yeah, I mean, that's like within a house. You've never done any of a larger scale thing. I mean, have you ever seen a canal construction?
I've never seen a canal construction.
You've never seen a canal with what like?
I've swam in a canal, but that doesn't count.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've swam in a canal, like now, how far was that in between locks? That stretch of canal?
It's an irrigation canal, so didn't really have locks.
Oh, right, but
I don't know.
But I mean, it was a length. What was it? Like it was above 100 meters. Was it? Or I mean, I don't know. Just
I don't know. I went all the way down the valley. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, so it's quite long. I mean, like the water wasn't draining out of it, was it? I mean, it was level, right? In order to stay as a canal.
Well, the water, of course, was flowing. Because it was being used for irrigation.
So it's not really a canal then, right? It's just a drainage ditch.
They call it an irrigation canal. I guess we wouldn't call it a canal. So that's
okay.
No, I guess I've never. But not the sense of a shipping canal or anything like that. No.
Well, no, the canals that we have in the UK aren't shipping canals because they're just little canals with barges on. They're only about 25 foot wide. No, they're not massive constructions, but they are just sort of it's a big trench that they fill with water basically.
Yeah, people have boats. They actually live on them. It sounds nice.
But your model says that surface of the water there has to curve, right? It has a curvature to it inbuilt into your calculations, right? That's why you have to equate a chord with horizontal.
There's a big if in there, right?
Is there?
Do it you do it based on the geometry, and then that would tell you what it would predict. If you were to do a test and you can actually measure the difference between the chord being across the outside water levels and the center level, that's what it predicts.
Yeah, but see what you're saying there is that a horizontal will be at a different angle to another horizontal. There is a difference, right? Now, can you see the problem you have? Especially when thinking about a water level,
I mean, I guess the water level, if it's like your hypothesis says, if the Earth is round, then the water curves. So also the water in your water level will curve.
Yeah, so like you say, you've developed a 2-inch sagitta, right? Now that is a rise above the level of the outside too, right?
Yeah, you could call it that.
Right, so is that what water does? Is that what you imagine water does? It rises of a function of a half distance of the entire length of the water level too?
No, I'm just saying that that's what the geometry would predict if, as you say, the Earth was a globe, water curves. That's what the geometry would predict.
Well, it's like a bit. Can you not spot the fallacy? Because water doesn't rise as a function of distance of the entire length, does it? Water doesn't rise to fall to find its level over the entire length.
No, from an observer's standpoint, and looking straight out, again, if Earth is a globe and water curves, then it would actually drop as you're looking further away. But if you move to the center of that point, wherever you are, it's dropping away from you. Well, you're basically standing on a ball.
But you see in the live stream text there, I've put a thing for a water level, the device. And it says, is any device utilizing the surface of liquid water to establish a horizontal plane of reference? Right, so where's the curve and the drop?
Well, you could also look at it a different way. If you look over a mile, the difference is 2 inches.
The difference in the horizontal?
It's the calculated difference.
The calculated difference in a horizontal over a mile.
The sagitta would be 2 inches. So, like in this construction site where you don't have a...
you are saying the horizontal has a sagitta, right? A horizontal plane of reference has a sagitta. You really?
In a short distance, like on this construction site, I think the sagitta be minuscule, like negligible. It only sets up a plane of reference. If you're using it to level 2 points far away, and you don't have a laser level or something that can draw a line on the wall for you. So yeah, in that case,
a laser that can draw a line on a wall.
Yeah, you've seen the laser levels. Basically, will give you a horizontal and also give you a vertical line in construction sites.
Yeah, but they don't draw. They don't draw lines on walls, mate. I'd really look into this sort of stuff a little bit more before you start trying to comment on it.
Well, the previous discussion was about whoever it was that said it was the 8 inches mile is how you figure it out.
Right. So over a mile, then, do you think it should drop 8 inches, or does it stay level over that 8 inches and just rise over the centre bit? What exactly is happening with your mathematical calculation?
I thought of something that would...
do you understand that over a mile you've got 8 inches, but you imagine that to be level, and the half distance function, which is a quarter, ends up as, because it's a squared function, right, ends up with you having a rise of 2 inches over a mile for it to fall 2 inches to end up at level?
No, because the one function is an exponential function. It's different. It's just strictly geometry of a circle.
8 inches over a mile, right? According to your calculations.
It's not my calculations. That's just...
It was. I mean, I'm not making them calculations. I know the water level is horizontal. There's no calculations needed for me to calculate a horizontal.
Right. Yeah, if the Earth was flat, I wouldn't even need it. I mean, surveyors wouldn't do any of that stuff.
They don't.
Would they? All over short distance.
Have you heard of differential leveling?
I have, yeah.
Right. So you know that they don't have a distance function within that at all, right? It's just a height. Once they set their levels up, they do backsight, foresight, and there is no distance function between any of the measurements. It's just vertical height measurements. Right?
It is right.
Right, well, that means that the horizontals must be parallel, right? I mean, you do understand how surveyors work, surely. Or are you going to have to disappear
I'm
and...
not a surveyor, but I do.
You do?
Talking about...
You do like making stuff up about stuff that you don't know anything about.
I also had a thought concerning your scale model of that water level. You might be able to test it.
Oh, you have had a look at it. You're not going to tell me to go up a mountain and turn it sideways and have a look across it, are you?
It's I was just thinking if you could...
That would be moronic, that, wouldn't it? Taking a water level up top of a mountain, turning it sideways and expecting it to perform the same function. I mean, you wouldn't do anything like that, would you?
These all sound like leading questions.
No, but would you? I mean, is that what you think the function of a water level is?
This is what I'm thinking. Have a small scale. You don't know for sure whether the two side water levels, the halfway ones, will actually do what we expect to do.
The water levels. Establish a horizontal plane of reference.
You take that whole thing and put it on a turntable and spin it at a certain rate.
Yeah.
With a camera also mounted to it that's looking at those center tubes in the middle.
Yeah. The water will spray out of them.
Oh, and the tubes will keep the water from spraying out of them.
The vacuum.
Holding the water.
Yeah, the vacuum within the water, within the tubes.
No one said anything about a vacuum.
Well, the water's replacing it, right? So there's no...
I'm just saying, okay, if you take a dish of water, you spin it in its middle.
Is this a surveyor tactic? Is this what surveyors do for measuring level?
This is a way of testing whether your level in the middle will actually see the difference, not having to build it, a mile long. If you take the whole thing and put it on a turntable and spin it at a constant rate, like what people use for throwing pots, thing that spins, maybe put it on something like that. Camera.
Sorry, for throwing pots.
Middle of it.
Oh right, yeah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, because the way water acts a dish when you spin it, it forms a parabola, so it's lower in the middle and higher in the edges. I'm curious if your air level test would do the same thing.
Well, you can do that.
The outside ones would show a different amount, and so in the middle there would be a difference between the two outside and the inside.
So that's an interesting test. You should do that.
Can I just get a question?
It might be worth trying.
Yeah, well, you do it. Come back and when you've done it, and let us see what happens, whether your predictions are true or not.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of doing it. I don't know how it would react.
Can I get a question?
It's an experiment.
Can I get a question?
Yeah, go on. Off you go.
Well, this is to what is it? Whatever. What what comparison to a real world situation does putting the water level on a potter's wheel and spinning it? Well, I don't understand what comparison you're trying to bring against a real world situation.
He's showing that water on on this plane that we live on isn't spinning.
Of course not. But what it does is it also causes a concave. Said water and a dish spinning. Do this with telescopes. They use
What?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense to me either. But
why do you need to
what are you talking about then?
To make sure it's working.
You could look it up yourself. But they have what's called zenith telescopes. So all they do is look straight up. And one way to form a mirror that's a perfect parabola is they actually use mercury as the reflective surface to form the parabola. They spin the whole thing, and because of centrifugal force, I forget which one does what. It basically causes the mercury to be higher on the outside and lower in the middle. There's a nice parabola, and that's what they use for a telescope.
Would that be concave?
Yeah, it would be concave, exactly.
So you're saying when you spin a liquid, it becomes concave?
Yes, yeah.
Right, so for the water level to be horizontal, what sort of motion do you think you would have to put on it, on water?
So it is horizontal, right? Especially on that scale that you have.
Water level is horizontal?
Yes.
Oh.
If you were to spin that middle, what would happen to those three inside tubes? The center one show lower level now that there's a force acting upon it, which is causing the water to form a cave surface? Or would all three of them still show the same level? That's the question.
I'm saying, personally, I believe the things that you teach your child, your autistic child, is psychological child abuse.
Like that water is level?
No, you teach your child that level is a horizontal plane, which is not true.
Yes.
And the implication of that is that you are teaching your child the earth is flat.
No.
Yes.
Oh. Did you just...
Equating teaching somebody what their world is and child abuse, I don't think that's at all true.
But you've just said that level is horizontal. The water level is horizontal. Do you want to hear it again? I mean, this is what he said. I mean...
I'm saying, personally, I believe the things that you teach your child, your autistic child, is psychological child abuse.
Like that water is level?
No, you teach your child that level is a horizontal plane, which is not true.
Yes.
And the implication of that is that you are teaching your child the earth is flat.
No.
Yes.
Right, so saying that level is horizontal, the implications of that is that I'm teaching my son flat earth, right? But you've just said that level is horizontal. So are you also a flat earther? Whatever.
Well, I did originally ask to be level in the roles, but that was taken away from me.
Right, so level is horizontal then, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Good to have you on our side. So I can understand now why you having to spin things to make a concave water level surface. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it?
No,
At rest, water is horizontal, and then when you spin it, it goes concave.
Yeah, that's what water does if you spin it in a dish. And I don't know what it'll happen with the 3 sets of water level in your experiment.
So what we did that the other day when we were talking about the gravitron or something. That when you go in there and you stand on something and your weight is directly downwards in a vertical position. But then as the machine spun up, eventually your weight gets moved towards the back. So it sort of, it disperses your weight from that downwards vertical to a horizontal direction, which is sort of what's happening with that water. Right? It's sort of the weight of it is being moved from a vertical to a horizontal, right? Yeah.
You're talking like the ride at the fair where you...
Why did you think that there should be a 2-inch Sagittar then? Because that's the opposite way, right?
It's just what the math says. That's what's predicted.
But what do you think the math would do to the water level? How do you... Like, I mean, you know that spinning it makes it go concave, and at rest it is horizontal. So when you do that maths, you end up with like the opposite, right? So how is it that like a physical act of the water at rest has one form, and then spinning it like physically has another action, and yet a mathematical thing that you went away and did has completely the opposite? I mean, maths can't affect the water level, can it?
No, math has no effect whatsoever.
Right.
It's just a way of calculating, in this case, geometry.
So really then, that 2-inch Sagittar that your maths predicted is just mathematically, it's not reality, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's not going to be actually measurable as a 2-inch Sagittar.
You come up with a test where, if it existed, be measured. That's the question.
Yeah, the water level test. If you're not, you've seen it, right?
Yeah, but I'm still not so sure that the two outside levels necessarily the middle of that. I think the two outside would basically be the same.
But they would be horizontal, like they would have to share the same horizontal as the overall length horizontal, wouldn't they? I mean, you couldn't have multiple horizontals where there is a horizontal, could you? I mean, like building sites would be screwed, wouldn't they?
Building sites such a small scale compared to the radius of the Earth that it doesn't matter.
What, depending on what
I've worked on some pretty large building sites.
Yeah, how do you predict that they would build a canal, like before they fill it up with water? Because they obviously can't just start digging a trench and keep it full, can they? I mean, that's not how you wouldn't construct a canal like that, would you? You would have to sort of lay the bed and make the canal and level it out and make sure and then you can fill the water in and put you.
I know. It's really not trivial unless you're like just digging it in the water out a little at a time.
Or even just drainage for ditches and for fields and for getting your poo out your house. Right, you need a downwards flow, don't you?
Sure do.
Right, so it's a downwards relative to the horizontal. Like, if it was horizontal, there would be no downwards drop, would there? Because that's what level is. Level would be 0 elevation change. Is your mic going? It's the second one today.
Like I said, I don't know that these big projects require a lot of surveying. How exactly they go about doing all that, I'm certainly not an expert.
No. Would you be surprised if I was to tell you that they use a horizontal level?
Oh, you have an auto flow, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
This is another test that I thought that you could do with just the auto level. See if there's a drop. Think you need a landmark far off in the distance, the known height above water, right?
How far off in the distance?
I would think it would have to be miles.
Right. You know that auto levels don't work over that sort of distance, right?
No, that you're not measuring for accuracy here. You're just using it to the crosshairs to show you level at your location.
Yeah, but you realise it doesn't work like that. That's not. That's not how levels work, and that's not how surveyors work.
So it tells you.
Have you ever heard of perspective?
Yes.
Right, now that's a function of distance, right? Yeah. Okay, so we don't use auto levels. I mean, I'd ask a few surveying firms before you carry on talking about professional people and their jobs and making a mockery of it by just making stuff up. I'd seriously consider asking them what they do for a job and how they actually do their job.
Well, perspective-wise, anything above eye level, stay above eye level all the way out to the vanishing.
Yeah, surveyors don't bother about that. I mean, that's just it's more of an artist sort of thing, that, isn't it?
But it's true. Anything above your eye level will stay above eye level all the way out to the vanishing. So anything that's below eye level will stay below eye level all the way out. If you're standing on a point,
what if you're looking down? What would your eye level be then if you're looking vertical? Like how would you explain what an eye level is if you are looking down towards your feet?
Perpendicular to the plumb line, the height of your eye.
Right, so you'd have to be looking level.
It's just a way of where to put this. Okay, the line perpendicular to the plumb line, and you can make it at your eye level. Because if you're looking through...
Yeah, that would be a horizontal line coming out from your eyes.
Yep, sure.
Brilliant.
You're looking through a telescope that's leveled and has a set of crosshairs on it. Show you off at the distance where your eye level is. You could do that with a eye level, but not measuring and to measure within, a tenth of an inch or anything like that. We're just using it as a reference point. If you're standing at a certain height, the object, you know how high the object is that you're looking at a distance. And
yeah, but if you was to have an auto level, you wouldn't go above... I don't know, it depends. Let's say 50 meters, but I mean, some people have advised us to you just use it at 30 meters because your accuracy starts going down at that sort of distance. I mean, that is with a 32 times scope, like the best scope that you could get on a auto level.
It's because you're measuring the graduations on a stick or a pole or a rod. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
And you need to measure that accurately, and if you get that too far away, you won't be able to tell the difference between the graduations. That doesn't mean the crosshair still isn't showing what the level is at whatever distance. Like if you put those crosshairs on a mountain off in the distance, it shows basically where your eye level is would be striking that mountain off in the distance.
Well, I mean, providing there isn't any magnification or atmospheric conditions or, you know, all of that sort of stuff, the heat and the haze and all sorts of funky stuff happening in the distance, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. We're assuming that light is just traveling in a straight line. But
okay,
yeah,
but like, you're not
going
presuming that surveyors take levels up to the top of mountains and look at the tops of other mountains to make sure that that's not how they measure or level the mountains, right? They don't actually do that for any reason. So
no, I read an article about it was a guy back in the 1930s who was hired on as a light keeper, and his job was man a light on one peak of one mountain, while surveyors, I think they used the transit back in the time, actually be on a peak of another mountain, and that's exactly what they would do. They would be measuring the angles to the mountain to figure out elevations and all of that. His job was to get up on a mountain. They didn't have radios and things like that to talk back and forth. It was all pre-planned, and they would use the lights to send Morse code to say, you know, the light rider there. I know it was an interesting article, but it was from back in the 30s. So in that case, they were definitely, surveyors were on top of mountain peaks, and
you believe that?
Well, it was written back in the 1930s, and the guy wasn't educated. He was.
What do you think they were doing?
Have a job. They were surveying California. They were making maps. They were actually whatever survey.
Right, yeah, but I mean the other guys were obviously like at a point, like, so because they're surveying, right? And you know, surveying is it's mainly geometry, right? And mainly the functions of a triangle. You understand that, right?
Yeah. They were measuring angles to function triangle.
Yeah, okay. So with obviously the light would be one of the points of a triangle.
Right.
And they would be another point of a triangle. Yeah, because they're looking at the light. Where would the other point of the triangle be that you imagine that they're using?
I think that there would take measurements to different peaks. So the surveyors would be on one peak. There were probably keepers at different peaks.
Okay.
So they would take measurements to this one. They'd send the Morse code, say, okay, we've got our measurements, or we'll have to do this another night because they're no good. Then they would go to look at another peak.
Okay, so the other triangle point would be an other peak of a mountain.
Yeah.
Right, so the person would be at a position on the ground, and they would sight an angle to from where? Where would they be measuring this angle from? Just an angle from one point to the other. You know, like, would they measure the angle from one mountain to the other mountain? And then have the line from the mountain to the mountain as the other. So A and B would be the two mountain points, and C would be the man with the surveyor.
And then the surveyors would occupy a different location, different nights.
Can you put up
one of these a night?
So yeah, but where were they after? What were they after? Just trying to work out where that fella was. I'm just trying to work out what the function of these men up mountains with lights would portray within the surveying community.
they were finding the precise angle from one mountain peak to another mountain peak.
They were finding an angle from a mountain peak to a mountain peak.
Right. And so these don't. So they were using triangulation. Something about you start with a baseline, which is measured. Distance of the baseline is measured as accurately as humanly possible to get a distance. Use that distance to
a baseline.
Right. Yeah.
Where's that baseline then? Is that sea level, or is that a different line?
Baseline is literally measured with a tape measure.
Okay, so that would be like a line on the ground.
There's a line on the ground.
A straight line.
Now I'm going out. It has to be straight and measured as accurately as possible because all your other measurements are based off of that.
Okay, so that line has to be measured dead straight for all of the bases of triangles to be measured from, for the triangulation base to be expanded outwards, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the limit of my understanding. I'm not just from references.
Okay, so all of these triangles would have to have straight sides.
Back in history, like the very first maps were made, I don't know, it was commissioned by Thomas Jefferson here in the U.S., and they were measuring the coastline. It was for measuring the coastline. So they started out by making a baseline that they could see from the ships in the water. Again, I'm going off of vague memory here. I mean, it was. I don't know the exact story.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, right? You start off with a straight line, and then you can base all triangular measurements from that one baseline, and you can just completely build out with triangles because you're sure of the three straight sides of a triangle and the angles that you can control it through geometry, and you express that geometry on a piece of paper. It makes complete sense.
It does.
Yeah. Or with
especially all
Euclidean
the contours and whatever on a channel or on a coastline. You only want to make your maps accurate so you don't have boats running into things.
Yeah. But you imagine that to be a straight line base for your triangles.
I don't. I'm just saying what the start of the survey is a baseline.
Yeah. It definitely wouldn't be latitude or longitude, would it? I mean, they couldn't be involved in it because
the other way is that
they're not straight lines, are they?
But you can locate your latitude and longitude based on the position of the stars.
Yeah, but they're not straight lines, though, are they? So you couldn't use that as your baseline for starting with all of your triangles.
So your latitude, and simply by measuring the height of the North Star, I'm sure they were more accurate than that.
Right, and does that North Star drop as a distance of function?
The North Star matches your latitude. The height of the North Star latitude.
Okay. Which is 1 degree every 69 miles, right? I mean, that's presuming that when you are at the north, then it is directly above your zenith, and as you move 69 miles, it drops 1 degree within a function of that travel, right?
Yeah, I don't know the exact miles, but yeah, 1 degree is like 60 something or 70 miles.
Right, now do you think that function of looking at the light in the sky could possibly equate to a curvature of the horizontal water level?
yeah, especially when ships started going out in sea and all they ever had to navigate by were the stars. It was important to know the position of the stars, and also you can look at.
Right. So you can look at it and go, because I move 69 miles and that drops 1 degree in the sky as I'm moving, therefore the water that I'm on must also drop.
Well, again, if the stars above a celestial sphere, that goes all the way back to Ptolemy's time, for like 1,000 years, with a geocentric Earth. It was the center, and then the stars above formed a big crystalline sphere around the Earth.
Yeah. You can definitely see a correlation, though, between the light in the sky and the surface you're standing on or sailing on, let's say.
Yeah, and that's how you use the sky to navigate. You couldn't just use the sky to navigate. You need to have star charts and also
I understand that.
Navigation charts to show where the timing where the moon.
What I'm asking you is if you think that the horizontal water level that you've just decided that you have, are you saying that because you look up at the sky and that light moves, that you are now going to allow the water to have a curvature that acts as the same function as the light in the sky? Because I mean that was getting done last night. I don't know if you were aware.
Last night I went out at the.
I'm saying it's going to be a new tactic that certain people are going to start using. The model believers are starting to move away from this. Like you went away and you did that calculation to come up with a 2-inch sagittar over half a mile. Well, they're going to say that over 69 miles is now just 1 degree of drop, rather than, I don't know how many miles, how much drop would there be in 69 miles on the water according to the calculations that you were doing?
I'd have to do the calculations, but it's kind of mixing everything up right now.
Yeah, by trying to use.
You mentioned how how did they latitude and longitude is what they're putting on their maps. Way back in the day, starting with the baseline, how would they know where that was? And the answer to that is you could find your latitude and longitude based on
You'll have to explain, because we're in the UK here and we have a grid reference system, so we don't really have latitude and longitude on our maps. We have square grid reference.
Yeah, and we also have square grid reference, and the military uses a square grid reference.
All right. Are you in America?
Yeah.
So you have square grid reference maps?
Yeah, of course. And the military uses them.
Oh.
NATO uses
them. They're not spherical squares, are they? No. Oh, well, that'd prove then a horizontal plane, right? You can't have a square grid reference. Just a minute, I've got to talk to the missus.
It's more like a mirror ball, if I could use an analogy. So each grid would be like a mirror on a mirror ball. They also,
when the two,
like our
when one grid meets another grid? You have a little peak or something.
So like we have full map, topographic maps, have the grid. They also have the latitude and longitude lines on both.
We don't.
All right, you know what? This is a lot of fun. I gotta admit. I used to wonder what people were doing for hours on end. looking at a list of videos. It's like, that's 2 hours long. But here, I just burned through an hour. I have to go get ready for work. But, yeah, this is fun.
All right, well,
I
cool.
have to pop out in my day.
Yeah, good try. How well do you think you performed?
It's not about a performance. It's just about the discussion.
Right. Well, we now know you're a horizontal level earther.
Locally, it's locally correct. It's locally correct.
And fight the flat Earth. Don't listen to what he says.
I'm saying, personally, I believe the things that you teach your child, your autistic child, is
How do
psychological
you-
child abuse.
Like that water is level.
No, you teach your child that level is a horizontal plane, which is not true.
Yes,
And
of course
the
it is.
implication of that is that you are teaching your child the earth is flat.
I don't think I've ever listened to what he says. I know the name. But
Right. Yeah. Well, when the child
again,
abuse
it's-
claims start coming in, just don't listen to him.
you know, get 5-10 minutes and get to a point, I might be interested. Right, like I said, I got my day.
Okie dokie. Cheers. Pop in any other time.
Right, bye.
See you later.
Teaching that level is horizontal is something
Yeah,
wrong
because
with
that's
that,
wrong.
Craig.
Yeah, because that is
Well, no,
actually a lie.
Wrong.
Locally, it's locally correct. It's locally correct.
Right.
That's what bugs the crap out of me.
And the trouble is, we know he claims to teach us to his children as well. So
yeah,
I mean,
that's what bugs the crap out of me.
What, that teaching that level is horizontal is something
Yeah,
wrong
because
with
that's
that,
wrong.
Craig.
Yeah, because that is
Well, no,
actually a lie.
Wrong.
locally, it's locally correct. It's locally correct. The
right,
level
only
has
locally.
several meanings.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
the
So
level has
it's-
several meanings.
Is
The
it
local
child
level
abuse
changes.
or isn't it child abuse then? What we
Well-
going with?
I'm saying, personally, I believe the things that you teach your child, your autistic child, is
How do
psychological
you-
child abuse.
Like that water is level.
No, you teach your child that level is a horizontal plane, which is not true.
Yes,
And
course
the
it is.
implication of that is that you are teaching your child the earth is flat. I 100% know it, yes. I have done personal calculations in the military, well, for fuel consumption,
calculations.
that only work when we're on a sphere. I had to
wait,
calculate how much fuel the diesel engines would use when going from South Africa all the way up to the
That's just a
top of
distance,
Canada.
right?